evening, I'm Katerina Georgieva. This is CBC Windsor News. Thanks for watching. Tonight, a house explosion leads to an arrest. Plus, a look at former police chief Pam Mizuno's salary in her final 3 months. It was significant despite retiring after the first quarter. From crime to art, we meet a local artist who is righting his wrongs within the community. And there's a plan to make sure there are clean bathrooms on job sites for women in trades. We'll hear about why that's such a big deal. Windsor police say they have arrested a 24-year-old man from Toronto in connection with a deliberate house explosion in Forest Glade. This is the scene at the 10,000 block of Aspen Lane in East Windsor today. Investigators were combing through what was left of the home. Police say the explosion took place in the early hours of Sunday morning. Neighbors told CBC they were woken up by the explosion.
I heard this great big boom, and I thought maybe it was a transformer. And then I heard sirens, and I thought, oh, maybe a truck collided on the expressway. And then I heard the sirens coming down the street. And so I came out and I saw the flames, like the glow, all the way down from my neighbor's driveway. So it was pretty shocking. And to see, you don't expect that to happen into your neighborhood.
Police say the man that they arrested was found nearby with his clothes smelling of a fire accelerant. The 24-year-old faces 2 arson-related charges. Police say no one else was injured. However, they wouldn't say if anyone was inside the home at the time, how the explosion may have happened, or the accused's connection to the home. Former Windsor Police Chief Pam Mizuno took home a salary of $266,000 in 2022, last year, despite only working for the first 3 months of that year. That detail was revealed in a police services board meeting agenda for this week. Mizuno abruptly retired on March 31st last year, right in the middle of her 5-year term. CBC News reached out to the Windsor Police Services Board asking why she had such a large salary for 3 months of work. A board spokesperson says because it's an identifiable individual, she couldn't share that information with the public. Mizuno's 2022 salary of more than $250,000 is more than what she made in the previous full year and more than what Jason Belair took home in 2022. He was deputy chief under Mizuno and became the acting chief in April before taking on the permanent role in December. From crime to an artistic craft. There's a Windsor street artist who previously faced charges for spray painting parts of the city and now wants to beautify the area legally. The CBC's TJ Deere reports.
Calvin Mercier, also known as Curse, wants to make amends for his past wrongs.
I want to right my wrong and kind of like be a positive influence in the community, or just like a positive figure that can help out after like doing what I did.
Mercier faced multiple mischief charges in 2021 after tagging businesses and residences in Ford City. Tagging involves illegally painting your name or a special mark on buildings. Mercier acknowledges he started his career in a bad way.
I spray painted in the wrong way, and it was wrong, and like seeing it on the news, you know, like I definitely felt bad. Like, you know, like it's not the coverage I wanted.
Mercier's art has also evolved from the characters he used in his tags, saying he's inspired by artists like Pablo Picasso and Keith Haring.
It's still cartoony, but I'm very big on a colorful, sometimes a big colorful collage of characters, shapes, numbers, letters, like words, and combining it all into this piece of artwork, you would call it.
Mercier said he felt bad and apologized to the chair of the Ford City BIA, who previously called the tagging destructive and sad.
He reached out and he, seems to want to make an amends, which is good. I think, sometimes time heals wounds, but then action also kind of has to take it the rest of the way.
Mercier plans on doing just that with an art show at the Mackenzie Hall Cultural Center. The show will run this Friday night from 6 to 11 p.m. and Saturday and Sunday from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. As a way to give back to the community, Mercier will be donating 10% of the show's proceeds to Drouillard House in Ford City. TJ Deere, CBC News, Windsor.
Ontario's Labour Minister is proposing to amend rules around bathrooms on construction sites. Monty McNaughton wants to make them cleaner, safer, and provide some for women only. The president of Windsor's Build a Dream Foundation, which helps women in skilled trades, says this is a great step, but says it's one of a number of issues that can make it difficult to keep women in construction.
I don't think it's asking too much to have what I believe is just basic human rights. Access to a clean facility, safety gear that fits. A lot of people are surprised that there are still very limited quantity and limited companies that offer safety gear that is made for women and women's bodies. When you look at the washrooms, it is that big of a deal. And some job sites just simply don't have a facility. If you think about men can just go out into the field and use the bathroom. It's a little bit different for women. If you think about menstruation, that's during those months. I mean, these are conversations that a lot of companies, if you think about the boardroom table, it's men, right? So they're not going to bring up these issues. So in certain cases, some of the women that we know that work on construction sites drive out 20 minutes to find a Tim Hortons to use a washroom. Then they come back onto the job site and then they have to start all over again. Biologically and how we go about using the bathroom differs. And so bringing attention to that is one thing. Then the safety is, I don't want to go into a porta potty on a job site and not be able to lock it, or not have access to tissue or soap or hand sanitizer, or even simple things like products that I need for proper hygiene. And so this announcement does bring light to a bigger issue. And what I often say is, we can talk about wanting more women, we could talk about a shortage, we can talk about the underrepresentation, but if the infrastructure, if the systemic barriers are still the same, then we can invest millions and millions of dollars into programs that really drive women into the industry. But if once they get in, they don't feel a sense of inclusion, a sense of safety, a sense of respect, then ultimately they're going to leave.
The Ontario government wants to crack down on businesses and people who hold onto workers' passports. However, advocates say the bill doesn't tackle larger issues. Meg Roberts has more.
My message to those scumbags out there abusing migrant workers is this: you can run, but you can't hide.
The Ontario government has introduced a bill to increase penalties for illegally holding workers' passports and work permits. Currently, employers can be fined $250 for each withheld document. With the proposed changes, that would rise to $100,000. And if an employer is convicted by the courts, they could be fined up to $500,000 and up to a year in jail.
We will find you, fine you, and put you behind bars. Labor trafficking has no place here in Ontario.
Just this past month, York police rescued 64 migrant workers who were exploited by an international trafficking ring.
Our members were shocked at the conditions that the victims were living in.
Based on the new legislation, the business could be facing $6.4 million in fines and potential jail time. The Migrant Workers Alliance says the government's plan doesn't offer worker protection as long as the system remains complaint-based.
Your employer controls your housing. You can't work for anyone else. You can be kicked out in the street. You can be kicked out of the country. So you don't have the power to make a complaint.
He says few cases have been fined and it's challenging to win claims. The government launched a labor trafficking program 18 months ago and says it helped 3,500 workers recover $400,000.
Increasing fines for a law that is not accessible to anyone doesn't actually increase justice.
The NDP say higher fines is an improvement, but want to see the government invest in frequent announced inspections, making sure migrant workers are paid fairly with work permits that offer more protection.
We also have to recognize there's a real disparity in terms of power.
Despite the bill passing the first reading today, the NDP say there are a number of questions that still need to be answered, like how the government plans on sharing the legislation with migrant workers. Meg Roberts, CBC News, Toronto.
Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre is calling for new national standards to speed up licensing for doctors and nurses who were trained abroad.
It's common sense. If you can do the job, you should get the job. If you are a doctor, you shouldn't be driving a taxi.
Poilievre's plan would also allow doctors and nurses who meet the standard to work in any province or territory and easily move between provinces without recertification. The idea of a pan-Canadian medical license is also supported by the NDP and the Canadian Medical Association. Poilievre calls his plan the Blue Seal program, after the Red Seal program that certifies skilled trades like plumbers and electricians. And we have an update this morning on the 2 Edmonton police officers killed last week in the line of duty. Edmonton police say the chief medical examiner has completed autopsies on constables Brett Ryan and Travis Jordan. The autopsies confirm both officers died from gunshot wounds. Both deaths are considered homicides. Police also say they will release more information on funeral arrangements for the officers as soon as it is possible. The officers' deaths have affected people right across the country, including the small community of Coldbrook, Nova Scotia, where Constable Jordan grew up. His longtime friends say they're still struggling with the loss and the hole his death will leave in their lives. Emily Fitzpatrick has more.
As 10-year-olds Brody Sampson and Travis Jordan bonded over neighborhood games of street hockey. Decades later, they still chatted on the phone weekly. Growing up, his friend always dreamed of being a police officer. Sampson says he knew the risks and died doing what he loved.
We lost someone special here, and someone who is irreplaceable. And I will forever mourn Travis's death because he was the most special and brilliant person that I've ever known.
Paul Sear was another member of this core group of friends meeting Jordan at 16 years old. He says within hours of hearing the news, dozens of community members were at the Jordan's family home offering support.
It's going to hit everybody differently, and especially because of, just how Travis was thought of by everybody. I think it's going to take a very long time before anyone can actually process this.
Jordan and Constable Brett Ryan were killed on Thursday while responding to a family dispute at an apartment complex in Edmonton. Autopsy results released confirm the officers died due to gunshot wounds. The 16-year-old suspected of shooting the officers died of a self-inflicted gunshot wound. The suspect's mother was also shot but remains in hospital in serious but stable condition.
Our community, our province, our country has really, it's worse off without Travis, quite frankly.
Both Sampson and Sear plan to travel to Edmonton for the funeral to say goodbye to their friend. Emily Fitzpatrick, CBC News, Edmonton.
Across the border now, former U.S. President Donald Trump is gearing up for a potentially combative week. In a social media post over the weekend, Trump said he expects to be arrested in the next few days and called on his supporters to protest. Trump is likely hoping news of an impending arrest will galvanize his base. But lawmakers on both sides of the aisle are urging people to remain calm. Katie Simpson has the latest.
You'd never know anything was wrong in Donald Trump's world. The former president in Oklahoma rallying a crowd at a wrestling tournament. If Trump is worried about an imminent arrest, he's not showing it, though much of the country is bracing for an unprecedented moment.
The idea of indicting a former president of the United States is deeply troubling to me, as it is to tens of millions of Americans.
Republicans are lining up behind Trump after he posted this on social media. Citing illegal leaks, he claimed he will be arrested on Tuesday, adding, "Protest, take our nation back." Trump's team now says he was speculating about the date, though charges are possible in the Stormy Daniels saga. She's the porn star at the center of a hush money scheme to keep damaging details of an alleged affair hidden during the 2016 election campaign.
He will have to go through the normal processing that includes fingerprinting and having photographs taken.
Trump's allies say any potential legal action is politically motivated.
You know why they're doing this? Because they're afraid of Trump. That's why they're doing it.
Fearing a repeat of the attack on the Capitol, there are widespread calls for protests to remain calm.
I hope that America has learned from what has happened in the past, and I hope whatever happens next week, we just have a very peaceful set of events.
Go Trump! Go Trump! Demonstrations so far have remained peaceful and small.
He does not need to go to jail over a bunch of people lying. So it just infuriates me. He is the most godly, the most wonderful president that we've ever had.
If anything, charges will likely energize Trump's base. It's why he's fundraising off the prospect of being arrested and will look for more opportunities to rally his base as his legal problems intensify. Katie Simpson, CBC News, Washington.
A panel of top scientists says the window to avert the worst effects of global warming is fast closing. The UN chief was more blunt today when he called the climate a time bomb that's ticking away.
Humanity is on thin ice, and that ice is melting fast. This report is a clarion call to massively fast-track climate efforts by every country and every sector and on every time frame. In short, our world needs climate action on all fronts, everything, everywhere, all at once.
The report from the UN Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change offers hope, but also a warning. It said the planet is a mere decade away from reaching the earlier goal of limiting warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius. Experts see that critical threshold as a tipping point after which risks from a warming Earth begin to pile on. The report called on world leaders to dramatically pick up the pace of weaning away from fossil fuel use. It also highlighted the threat global warming poses to human health. Some competitive cheerleaders in Windsor are headed to a big stage. Two groups of athletes from North Star Cheer are going to Orlando for the biggest competition in the United States. It's called the All-Star World Championship. We checked in with one of the owners of North Star Cheer about how big of a deal this is.
Being able to compete in these kinds of competitions is kind of the be-all, end-all for a cheerleading season. All through the season, we go to competitions at which we're trying our best to earn bids to get to these competitions. And when we get our bid, then from the rest of the time on, we're just trying to perfect and get ready to go down to Florida and see cheerleaders from all over the world. Cheerleading is a wonderful sport. When I was younger, I competed in gymnastics. But the problem was, all my friends that I trained with every time and all the people that I knew, I had to compete against and beat when we went to competition. So it wasn't quite conducive to making a lot of friends. Cheerleading is a cooperative thing. It teaches these girls how to cooperate with each other. It builds their it builds them up physically because they have to be strong, they have to be tight, they have to be sharp, they have to be involved. It also gives them a chance to get out of their shell and get out there and really show off on the floor, because there's something in cheerleading that is called pizzazz that you have to be able to bring to your routine, and our kids are working on it.
A live look outside there, the sun shining on us on this first day of spring. It makes me so happy to say that. And with spring comes a chance of some rain tonight, but conditions should clear up again tomorrow. Colette will be here after the break with more. Stay with us. Colette Kennedy is here now for a look at our weather. And Colette, I am delighted to wish you a happy first day of spring.
I know we made it, right?
Yes. Thank goodness.
Exactly. There are some winters which are harder than others, and you just feel like so relieved, even though it's not necessarily the end of the winter weather, but you're so glad you finally got there. We were not doing so bad this winter, right? I know a lot of wet weather, but really our temperatures, it has been generally a pretty mild winter. Spring looks more seasonal, but yep, there it is. Did it today. 5:24 p.m. It became official, so we can look at tomorrow as the first full day of spring for 2023. The current temperature is holding very close, really, to where the daytime highs have been. And what a nice way. Okay, breezy, I know, but other than that, what a nice way to start off the first part of spring when you can have so much sunshine in the forecast there and in our skies. So these are just the sustained winds, and there are these pockets where you see the purples and the blues, and we know those are areas where the winds are even stronger. And some of the gusts, seeing that over there along the north shore of Lake Erie and even towards Kitchener and London a little bit, but winds are coming in with some of those gusts close to 45 kilometers an hour, and for Sarnia as well. But just a little bit of cloud cover. Fair weather cloud that's kind of pushed in. There'll be a few isolated sprinkles, mostly to the north and to the east through the overnight hour tonight, so not much to deal with there. We will inherit more cloud cover. I think we'll have some sunshine, or at least some good sunny breaks early, and then the clouds will thicken up, and then we get into more isolated showers. But watch what happens on Wednesday later in the day. So not too much other than the clouds early. By the afternoon and evening, we do get into a more widespread rain shower activity that we'll have there as we head towards midweek. But we've got some mild temperatures to go along here as well. Some of those winds at times kind of picking up overnight tonight, and then they'll ease off tomorrow morning and really won't likely pick up again until we get with that system coming in on Wednesday. Temperatures overnight tonight around 3, and then cooling from there will probably still drop to around 2 for that overnight low. But check out these daytime highs as we get into spring. Double digits, Katerina, not too much to complain about that.
I love it. Double digits. That's all I could think when that popped up.
Exactly.
Thanks for that, Colette.
You're welcome.
When we come back, we're going to tell you about the Recolor project, a colorful way to save crayons from going into landfills. Stay with us. Some University of Saskatchewan students are offering a second life to single-use crayons, like the ones sometimes handed out to kids at restaurants. They recycle them and donate them to children in need. The Recolor project operates within the global nonprofit group Enactus, and it saved more than 10,000 crayons from going into landfills.
Recolor was an initiative focused on diverting waste from the landfills, primarily through you partnering with family restaurants to divert any crayons that they have to provide to their patrons. We then take them, sort them, peel the wrappers off of them, and finally start to melt them down.
I would say a big thing is that crayons, so there's petroleum waste that would be going into the landfills if we weren't able to divert them. So we are essentially diverting petroleum waste from like fossil fuels going into the landfill. We try to make sure that we're donating them to kids that truly need them.
It takes about 2 regular crayons to develop one of our typical crayons, and that's just because ours tend to be thicker to prevent breakage, to help with dexterity issues. We've also heard from some of our grandmas who've bought the kits that they enjoy the shapes of them as they're easy to hold with their arthritis. I hope that we're able to reach out to more students to educate more people on the importance of sustainability, and ideally eventually work towards a way where we don't have to produce single-use crayons anymore.
What a cool idea. Vending machines are nothing new, but the range of options certainly is growing, and a new take on vending machines in India is drawing attention and visitors to check it out.
I came to visit here and I ordered a chicken biryani, and the experience is too good and the biryani is too hot.
The company behind this food location says it's the first one in the country to automatically dispense fresh food this way. Customers browse through a computerized menu before choosing their biryani, with a price range that starts around $3.25 Canadian. The biryani is packed and ready in less than 5 minutes. While vending machines serving canned and packed food are not uncommon in India, the novelty of a system dispensing fresh food has customers turning up at all hours to get a look. The kiosk dispensing the biryani is open until 3 a.m. That is it for CBC Windsor News. You can always go to cbc.ca/Windsor for more news updates. And you can also check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Thanks for watching. Have a good night.